On this edition of In Focus, we meet two men behind a provocative new project, director-producer Donnie Betts and performance artist and writer Jeff Campbell. Here's his brief introduction to the piece.
Hi, I'm Jeff Campbell, writer of Who Killed Jiggaboo Jones, a one-man mockumentary on the hip-hop industrial complex. Who is Jiggaboo Jones? Well, he's the greatest rapper who ever lived, ever. He is an archetype in and of himself. He is the modern minstrel and magic Negro. He does amazing work, but it all seems to benefit everybody except himself. I wrote this story for three main reasons that I want the audience to take away from. First, I want folks to laugh. It's funny. I think it's funny. You're gonna think it's funny too. Second, I want folks to think. All of these images that we see perpetuated through mass media, these stereotypes, they have an origin. So let's think about what role we play in perpetuating these images that we see. And then hopefully finally to dialogue about real issues that are relevant to our lives and our society today.
We met Donnie Betts and Jeff Campbell in the theater space at the Laundry on Lawrence to learn more about this provocative new production. I'm so excited that you sent me a message telling me about this project because I might not have noticed it early enough to get in here and talk to you about it. So thank you for that, Donnie.
You're so welcome.
It's been an interesting year for you after that hugely successful, both commercially and artistically, production at the Aurora Fox of The Color Purple.
Yes.
And have you done a piece of theater between then and now in Colorado?
Well, we did a stage reading of Who Killed Jiggaboo Jones, which was highly successful. That's why
So a stage reading of this
stage
piece.
reading of this piece, right? So that's what I've been working on, as
So
well
how
as
do you
two other
go
productions.
from The Color Purple to this subject matter?
Well, I've been speaking with Jeff for many years about writing a piece of theater because I think he's a brilliant writer. And right after Color Purple, he called me and said, I have a piece ready. Really? Okay. All right, well, let's do it in 2014.
Because lots of young playwrights think their work is ready.
There you go. There you go. So I said, okay, well, let's do it in 2014. What should we do next? I said, well, do a stage reading. And then I get a call. He has this theater. So we're going to do a stage reading. He has a date, the whole 9 yards. So I've been kind of flung into Jiggaboo Jones.
So I want to find out about how you created this. I've taken the time to watch some of the videos that you're publishing to share what this process is like for you and what the subject matter is a little bit. But I'm wondering if you can distill that for me in when you were sitting with the page and your keyboard or pen or however you write, whatever your process is like, when you were sitting there and this idea struck you, what was that moment? What caused that to happen for you?
I have been thinking about this process, this particular subject for a very long time. This is not something that came like a spark of inspiration and then all of a sudden there was a story. This story is really a part of my own personal journey, as well as something that is not isolated just with hip-hop culture, but hip-hop serves as a microcosm for the larger message and topic and point that I'm trying to get across. So it is really so much about my own personal experience as well as what I see in mass media about hip-hop culture, black culture in particular.
And black men, black young men.
And black males, yeah, absolutely.
You reached all the way back to the 1900s for a racial epithet for the name of your character.
Right.
But it's a mockumentary that takes place now?
Exactly.
So what caused you to look back that far for the context?
Because in my humble opinion, very little has changed from that era in regards to black males. I feel like back then we used to be handed a script by a Hollywood writer and told to put on this blackface and portray this image of quote unquote realistic life in Black America. Now we write that script ourselves and we wear the mask or the blackface in regards to we wear the stereotype.
And people in your community and people who are your neighbors accept that. They just accept that as a given without examination of that script.
Absolutely. This is who we are. And I think that was probably the same attitude about blackface at one point, which is crazy. So what I sought to do was to juxtapose the two eras, bring them together in this story to show the parallel between then and now, and that nothing has really changed.
It's interesting that name that you chose for this character was born out of a combination of Irish culture and African American culture together when they were both treated poorly in mainstream society. And now hip hop culture is reaching out into the suburbs. Young suburban teens all feel as though they're part of hip hop culture. Is that part of what you'll be examining in this at all?
Not very much, but to a degree, really just to make the point that these despised and rejected youth from the ghetto in the early 70s developed a worldwide multi-billion-dollar culture just by being creative with
music, fashion, film, design, writing.
Right, and the list goes on. Basically out of their own creativity, yet they are not the benefactors of this industry that came from them. You know, if Chinese people were not the benefactors of Chinese food, we would see that as very, very crazy. And in some instances, we do see that. If people from Mexico do not inherit reap the benefit of Mexican culture, like for example Taco Bell, then then we look at that with a very critical eye. Is yoga what we see in America, or is what we see in Southeast Asia? So my whole point is to bring across is that these young people from this area, created this culture, and they're not the benefactors of it. And in fact, it has given people from all over the world a purpose for their lives.
That's part of what might cause the general public to accept these kinds of ideas and narratives about young Black men in America without question, because it's become so much a part of our commercial culture as well.
Absolutely.
Right.
When you see an artist trying to tackle a really serious subject like this in theater, it's always exciting, but sometimes very dangerous.
Yes.
Even recently on Broadway, The Scottsboro Boys was protested before anyone even saw it. Is that something that you have a concern as the producer and the director helping this young artist bring this story out?
No. No, I don't. I mean, a difficult subject is what art needs to tackle. And that's a way that we can do that. Like music brings people together. I think hip hop can bring people together. One of the most profound things I saw on a person wearing when I recently went to Palestine was a young boy that says hip hop is larger than the occupation. That's what that said. So that tells me that this worldwide phenomenon that we're looking at needs to be examined first by us as Black men looking at it, because it is, as you said, spread out into the suburbs. But what are we doing now to take back ownership? Just like jazz had been co-opted, and now it's not part of, it used to be all those guys down there smoking marijuana and things like that, playing that crazy music.
Right over there.
Right over there. Now everybody else is playing it. You'll go to a school and you'll see people playing great, fantastic music, but you don't really see a lot of people of color playing that kind of music. So what Jeff is doing with...
At least not younger people of color.
Not younger people of color, that's right. Because they don't realize that now, in addition to the turntables that they use to make music, they can use the instrument to make music. So we're just trying to bring that to the forefront and tell people that this is where we came from, this is where we are now. Somebody is now having us put the mask back on. not necessarily to put on the blackface, but we're wearing a mask to be commercial. We're wearing a mask now to sell all the products that hip hop sells.
Or even in our neighborhoods, our young men may be wearing that mask because they've bought into a falsehood about who they are.
Yes,
Absolutely.
totally.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Is that part of what you're trying to do with this work, is talk to those young men also?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's certain points that I want to definitely bring across in that directly affect young males from urban areas, low-income youth of color, the community in which hip-hop culture finds its origin. In particular, I use the word jigaboo on purpose for several different reasons. The first reason is if I said the N-word to my average young brother from a low-income urban area,
It doesn't startle him or shake him in any way.
yeah, then that would be like a greeting. What's up, man? You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? That would be a greeting. But if I said, hey, what's up, jigaboo, I would be prepared to fight.
Right.
And maybe even you have to explain what it is to some.
And even like, what are you talking about? So the thing
They
with,
can tell from the tone that it's not a good word.
exactly.
Right.
However, they might not even know any of that history. They might not know why it's so difficult for us to have a conversation and use that word.
Absolutely.
And what makes it so difficult for us to have a conversation about your show
Yeah.
with that strong epithet in the title. It makes
Yeah.
it difficult for some people to say.
Of course. Of course.
And I know you knew that. I know you knew that when you
Absolutely.
named your character and named your play.
Right. Absolutely.
So how does it feel to watch me dance around saying the name of your show?
You can go ahead and say it. You can go ahead and say it.
There are very specific reasons why I would never say it.
Okay.
Because when it goes out into the world, when you broadcast that on television or it goes out into the world on the internet,
Sure.
you can never control how it's used.
Right.
true.
Right.
Very true.
So it's not that I'm afraid of the conversation.
Okay, gotcha.
But I don't want someone to exploit this conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's too much respect for how that might go out into the world.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
I got
And we
you.
appreciate that.
I got you. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It would be too tempting for the wrong person to exploit the idea of a white woman sitting down with two black men talking about this subject
Right.
for their own purposes.
Right.
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 And we're seeing some of that in the responses to the videos that are being posted.
Right. Absolutely. But please let me point out the fact that if it was the N-word, it wouldn't have to carry the same amount of weight.
It wouldn't in parts of our community.
Fair enough.
But where I live,
Yeah.
it would.
Okay. Gotcha.
It would. And I think where some African American families would still feel the same weight with that word.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And it's very different for me to say it on camera than it is for you to say it on camera.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And
And
I-
even someone of my generation
Exactly.
to say it.
It is very different.
Yes.
The home I grew up in knew this word. It wasn't a strange word to us, but it was a strange word in our home. It would have never been tolerated in our home, but we would hear it when we left our own neighborhood.
Right. Right. Right.
Right.
Well, now that we sort of have some context about, the risk in
Yes.
doing this dangerous piece of theater, and how you got together and what inspired you to get started, I think it's a good time for us to take a break. And you're going to want to join us again on the next segment, because we're going to talk more about what the show really is and what they're trying to accomplish and who this character is. So make sure you join us again. In part 2 of our conversation, we learn more about the creation of this project and the inspiration for the characters. Ticket information is available at workspacedenver.org, and the production runs from October 4th through the 19th. And don't forget to visit our Facebook page and enter for your chance to win a Roku streaming player, a great way not to miss an episode of In Focus.